Alright, folks, it's Saturday, 9:29 p.m. You know what that means. It's time to watch another episode of Chernobyl with your boy, Tottlesworth. It's going to be hard for this episode and the later ones, I think, to compare with the quality of episode 2. That was a really, really good one. But we'll find out. I'm doing this episode really late tonight. Because I drank a couple of Bud Light Limes, I got my courage up, and now I think I'm finally ready. And I finished off Stranger Things Season 3 earlier today. I just finished wiping up my big manly tears, so I think I'm ready to feel depressed again. We'll see if it works out. We'll see if Comrade Dyatlov makes another appearance. I'm really, really hoping he does this time. I think my prediction is that he gets blamed some more for some shit that isn't his fault. Overall, I'm hoping, like I said last time around, that they get into the root cause analysis of the accident. I think that would be really interesting. But, yeah, I'm looking forward to it. Let's get right into it. Alright, we're starting out with these three homeboys getting out after their suicide mission down into the depths of the plant. I like this scene a lot. I liked it in the last episode, that luckily they brought flashlights they could wind up with their hands. And they kept doing a job until it got done. You didn't hear these guys, complaining that they did anything wrong or crying while they were doing the job. They just went in there and did it. This is exactly what I complained about back in Litty Reacts episode 1, how they were portraying plant workers, and I'm glad that they showed us a realistic image of exactly what these guys were doing. They knew they were potentially, or rather definitely, going to their deaths, and they came out on the other side, ready to drink some sparkling water. I'm sure that's what that is. Alright, so here in this scene, we see the firefighter's wife come in. She had to bribe a lady at the front desk to let her get up the stairs to see her husband, because they weren't allowing any visitors, which is probably the right call. But anyway, she gets up there. Nurse tells her, you can go in there, but you can't touch him. And she goes in anyway. She gives him a big old wifey hug. It's very cute, and they play some dark foreboding music, and that's probably appropriate. I saw some people complaining on the internet, as they do, that the series inaccurately depicted people who were victims of radiation injuries as being like contagious or something like that. And that it was a very inaccurate portrayal of what happens to somebody with radiation sickness. And the thing is, if you were a firefighter, right, you're inhaling, you're directly getting skin contamination. I guess I should explain the difference between radiation and contamination, and that's the main gripe that I think the nerds had about this scene and the overall depiction of radiation in the series. So contamination is the poop and radiation is the smell, right? If somebody smells poop 3 days later or 4 days later in this scene, I guess it is, they're not going to give off a poop smell just because they smelled it, right? However, if they were heavily contaminated at the plant, and had heavy absorption into their skin, into their lungs, and so on, then they're probably going to smell like poop. And the smell is what hurts you overall. So I don't think it's completely inaccurate to go about it this way, is to make it foreboding that she's hugging her husband. I think this is a good scene overall, considering how heavily contaminated the firefighters were at the plant. Alright, so this scene's really funny again. This is straight out of Rush Hour 2. Comrade Legasov is telling the secretary guy here that they need to evacuate something like 200 kilometers. And he starts making like weird personal insults about Party Man and so on and so forth. I feel like this is a recreation of the earlier scene, or rather the episode 2 scene where the lady comes in and starts insulting the fat guy about only having worked in a shoe factory. It's like, again, this is why people don't like scientists. Like, you can't deny it. This is it right here. Bunch of nerds who don't know how to communicate with people. Like he goes straight after him. Homeboy here is like, I'm a career party man. What the fuck is your problem? Like, make a better case for yourself. Give me the facts, dude. Don't start insulting me personally. It's just kind of it's another classic. Like, so I'm pretty sure that on the right hand side, at this point, this guy is Chris Tucker, and the nerd Legasov is Jackie Chan, but like obviously not athletic. All right, so here, not a couple minutes, or rather, like 30 seconds after the last clip, Legasov says that they found a spike in zirconium emissions, or at least detected airborne zirconium, and that's a cladding element of the fuel, and that's how they know that the meltdown has begun. Like, this is 4 days. Like, I thought so this is the first point at which I'm kind of questioning at least the timeline of events. I know from the last episode, from doing some research during and after the fact, that they took a couple of liberties with the timeline of that helicopter crash. And so this strikes me as something along those lines. Like, Legasov clearly knew before this that fuel melting had begun by like the pure amount of release of fission products of iodine and, like he just said, cesium-137. Like, this is as a nuclear boy, the first point at which the series is very obviously taking a very large liberty with realistic dialogue in this scene. So zirconium is, like he just accurately said, an element used in the cladding of fuel materials, useful for its non-reactivity to nuclear reactions, and also very unreactive to the like harsh chemical environment that the nuclear fuel has, or rather that the nuclear coolant exists in. Zirconium is what is used in many, even today, cladding materials. There's nothing wrong with any of that. I quite liked that bit, but at this point, homeboy definitely knew that nuclear fuel was melting. Like, it was melting like 3 days ago at this point. So this is just a bit of a meme. I don't mind it too much. Just good to know. Hey, alright, so here, Comrade Secretary General starts off this scene by saying that Legasov told him about, well, the core content, the core status has been deteriorating, which seems, the show is clearly connecting to the last sentence that he said, that the meltdown has begun, which was clearly, commencing 3 days ago at this point. However, what he goes into again shows the Jackie Chan, or oh shit, he's Chris Tucker. Never mind. The Chris Tucker of this dynamic duo, showing his extreme competence and extremely quick learning ability. Tells him basically what Legasov has already told him about how the concrete pad is only going to last like 6 to 10 weeks or something like that, and that after that the groundwater is going to be very heavily contaminated. So this is what I talked about in the last episode. This is part of the phase 2 of the response that I anticipated most of the rest of the series to be about. But the show's getting back on track at this point. It's kind of ignoring that last kind of dumb comment made by Legasov. So I'm happy they abandoned that one. All right, I had to stop it again, like 20 seconds later, because Comrade Legasov just delivered one of his signature lines. I guess I haven't seen it memed at all, but I mean he tries to deliver the on-scene Litty react, you know, uranium 239. You know, it's at 20,000 years or whatever half life, so we're just gonna say Chernobyl's not safe within our lifetimes, and he gets hung the fuck up on. You know, this is what happens when you try to Litty react on the spot. Like you gotta give it a couple of weeks. Otherwise you're gonna get a huge dislike ratio on your YouTube. You know, I guess this is why he was submitting his cassette tapes many years after the fact, once he had time to reflect on this shit ass decision. And I feel like this screen grab captures that moment, you know, 3 seconds afterwards when he's like, God damn it, I'm so goddamn dumb. Why did I say that? And Comrade Secretary on the left is like, oh, Jesus, why do I have to work with this fucking nerd? So here I'm just clipping this moment because the lady scientist from the nuclear center or the atomic research center or whatever is asking him, why the fuck did the reactor blow up? God damn it, I can't figure this shit out. Why did it happen? It shouldn't have been possible. So this gives me hope that some of the later episodes, I guess there's only 2 left after this one, are going to be about why the fuck this accident happened. So I'm happy to see this. I assume most of the rest of this episode is going to be, like I said, about Phase 2 response. That they figured out that they need some sort of heat exchanger under the concrete pad, and they probably need some more concrete. I don't really know my history of Chernobyl that well to know whether or not that's what's going to happen. But yeah, I'm glad this scene is here. It gives me hope that what I've been hoping for might happen to some extent later on. Let's hope that it is accurate. Alright, I guess I made that last clip a little bit too soon, because afterwards, Comrade Legasov starts saying, you know, we gotta figure out exactly what happened moment by moment with all the people involved, you know, and you gotta go talk to them while they're alive still, so that, you know, because if we don't do that, then this will definitely happen again. So I'm really happy to hear that. That gives me more faith that the series is going exactly where I hope that it will. Yeah. Oh man, here we go. Another great scene of the coal miners in, I already forgot the name of the place. And maybe that's the point. You know, they tell Homeboy here, and this man is just doing his job. I've been in his position before. Last time it happened to me, some fucking laborers said I looked like McLovin from that one movie, Superbad. Yeah, that's basically me getting called McLovin on the job site. I know the feel. I've smiled that exact same smile before, and you know, it wasn't as severe as this incident, but you know, he should really get a haircut, just like me. So you know, I feel for that, but much more sincerely, I feel, and I like the portrayal of the working man in this scenario. Just be honest about it. You know, they're going to risk their lives. They got to do their duty, and they're ready to go do it as soon as you go tell them to do it. This episode is a much more accurate portrayal than I saw in episode 1. and I'm happy to see that. Oh my god, he's back. My man here is back. Comrade Dyatlov. I didn't even recognize him. I only knew him by his voice. And he tells the lady nuclear physicist, get the fuck out of here unless you got a fucking caviar sandwich on you. Just an absolute champion. This man is the boss. This man is the king. He absolutely bridges the gap, and that's why he's the most. I identify the most with Comrade Dyatlov here. Just because he made every decision correctly, and he's just ready. He's ready to die. He just wanted a caviar sandwich. Just give him what he wants. Like, I'm sure he'll continue to tell the truth. He'll continue to make all the right decisions. With all the horrific sores on his head, he lost his beautiful head of hair. I'm just so happy to see him again alive. He clearly vomited on his pillow a little bit. That's a little bit reminiscent of that last scene where he vomited on the table. So I appreciate the poetry of this scene so far. I paused it right here at the beginning. I'm sure he's about to say some more true ass shit, but we'll see. So here Legasov is reacting to just talking to the chief miner that he drafted into his project to save the USSR. That's about an appropriate reaction to talking to a guy like that. Pardon me. He's gonna have to realize that the people he's talking to are reacting appropriately for once in his fucking life. I like this scene a lot. It really, really gives the proper prudence to the chief of the working man in this scenario. We'll see if that holds up. I'm looking forward to the rest of the episode. This might actually not be that incredibly depressing. Alright, so here we see the chief engineer again of the plant. This is a perfect example of why vengeance is a fool's quest. You see, because it ends up that you pity those who you seek vengeance upon once it is enacted upon them. The chief engineer, bro, even though he did Dyatlov wrong, he didn't quite deserve this fate, I feel, upon seeing him as such. This is just something else to apologize about earlier, about my Litty react to episode 1. That's what happens when the reacts are too Litty. But that's the game we play. That's the game we play in this industry. Alright, so I skipped a couple of Litty react scenes earlier because they involve big old dongers swinging in the wind. Which, I appreciate a good donger, but I can't quite react to it on YouTube. So here we are. Couple scenes following. Oh yeah, there was another scene before where the firefighter's wife approached her husband. That was a hard one to watch, if I'm being honest. That was a real rough one, showing the full extent of radiation burns on his body as he himself approaches death. And it just goes to show, I can't hardly believe that the nerds that I mentioned earlier were so mad about the conflation of radiation and contamination. When the extent of the injury is so shown, it just shows great foresight on the part of the nurses and the medical staff that administered aid to those folks, that they knew that they pretty well knew what they were dealing with, and they provided good advice to her at the time, and that exactly like the lady said they couldn't babysit her while they administered 20 different people in several different wards. Anyway, let's get back onto this scene. This homeboy, the chief engineer, I guess. Wait, was he? I don't know anymore. I thought he was the chief engineer, but he's saying that he was in the control room at the time of the accident, which he definitely wasn't. But anyway, they're getting into the timeline of the history of the accident, which I greatly appreciate. You know, I'm sure this will get into graphite tip control rods and so on and so forth, which is definitely a good thing. But we'll see where it goes. We'll see how long this guy can give his testimony before he dies. Yeah. So here, the birthmark boy, again, just like in the first scene he had in episode 1, proves his worth, recognizes the magnitude of the problem, listens to the sound advice of Comrade Legasov, and gives the order to begin at once, with the decontamination, the burial, and the containment structure, great Soviet work projects. We'll see how it turns out for this guy. It seems like he's making all the right decisions in this series so far. Here we go again. Comrade Legasov coming off as a naive idiot. Just like the Rush Hour 2 version of Jackie Chan that I thought he was earlier. A homeboy secretary on the right calls it out for what it is because he knows the system and how it works. But it seems like Legasov made the right call in this situation because it turns out that he actually needs her for the expertise that she has. As they say, you know, it takes one to know one. They say that Ronald Reagan invented that, but it's actually an old Soviet proverb. So there it is. We'll see how it works out. Well, obviously we know how it works out for Legasov. Really, we're just looking out for Chris Tucker there on the right. All right, so here we finally have the ceremonial concrete truck attending the funeral of all the firefighters who were the first responders in the disaster. You know, I'm hoping that my loved ones, the last image they see in remembrance of me is something exactly like this. Just a goofy looking concrete truck. Hopefully it says Ford on the front instead of Camar or Cam. Man, I don't speak Cyrillic. I mean, I don't speak Russian and I can't read Cyrillic. That's what I meant. But there it is. You know, it's you hate to see it. Like I've said several times before, hoping that one never gets old. And boom, there you go. Episode 3 of Chernobyl in the books. I won't say that this one was as hard to watch as episode 2. Maybe because I had my trusty Bud Light Limes at my side. But honestly, this series is impressing me more and more every single episode. So this one was better than 2, which was way better than 1. And 1 I only disliked in parts because of certain sections which they've addressed since. So really I'm impressed with this series. Extremely impressed and very, very depressed at the same time. This seems like a really good series. Hopefully 4 and 5 live up to that expectation. It seems like they're going in a direction that I'm very happy with overall in the context of the accident as, you know, historically based. But we'll see how it goes. I'll see you guys next week.